Hello, I'm Catherine. Welcome to my studio. I just wanted to make a short film about if something like this, if you want to do some art, but something like this looks really scary because it's just full of white blank paper and you just immediately get fear. I want to show you a few things you can do to make that process a little bit easier with the sketchbook that I've already done some things to. So let me show you. So this is a simple, very cheap A4. It was more a booklet than a sketchbook. I've reinforced it a bit. I'll show you that in a moment. But what I wanted to really say was that I've made lots of modifications just to make it more interesting and less scary to start with. So you can see the actual paper it came with isn't the greatest. It's not very heavy weight. So in quite a few places I've glued in some thicker paper. So this is watercolour paper and I've torn down the original page, glued this on, and then you've got, and as well as drawing or painting onto, I've also added some prints I already had that I thought would go with the theme of the book. I don't always have a theme, but I am working on, I want to do a bigger textile on the theme of cabinets of curiosity, which were in the 18th and 19th century, where people would collect all the things they found in the natural world or bought or plundered in some cases. And it would be fossils and shells and skulls and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And one of the things I wanted to explore was the fact that you don't always see everything straight away. You sort of have to open cupboards to look. So here I've put, this is, I've got this ammonite that I bought at a fossil shop in Lyme Regis. I don't even remember when I did this, ages ago, but I tend to keep everything I make. I scanned it in and then played around with the colours, and I thought, oh, that looks quite nice with the colours on that page. I've also put quite a few flaps and things in because as I was saying, you sort of open doors and look at things inside cabinets. So I wanted to have that as well. And some of the pages I've glued in and some of them I've stitched in. If you want to stitch using a sewing machine, just make sure you keep a needle specially for that because it does blunt it quite quickly using it on paper. I have one, I just put a blob of paint on it so I know it's a paper one and I don't try and use it on fabric. And you can do it by hand as well. My other tip would be to use quite long stitches because when you're making lots of holes, it's actually like a perforation, so it can tear off. But I actually quite like the effect of, see on there, I did it on there accidentally, I went through the front cover, but I actually really like just the effect of the punched holes, if that shows on camera. And then after I've attached papers, I put a few transparencies that I already had. These don't glue down, so I had to stitch those in. But again, we've got that nice sort of window effect because you have the print on there and I'll be able to put something in there. So all sorts of papers. And I've also, as you can see, I've put quite a lot of paint down already, mostly as frames because then that gives you spaces to put things in. And again, you're taking up some of that blank paper, so it's not quite so intimidating. This I just let the drips run, and I rather like that because it's sort of compartmentalizing things. That's the other thing about cabinets. You often get sort of repeated shapes of things. You know, you pull out a drawer and you see lots of things all of the same shape and size, so I might create that as well. And just a bit about structure. As I said, this was quite a flimsy book, so I thought I'd reinforce it. I put some corrugated card on the inside there, and that will get painted or collaged to make that stronger. And then on the back, I put this piece that was the back of a notebook, but I thought that was rather fun with the typography there. And the other thing was, it was only stapled together, and because I was being quite, not rough with it, but because I've done so many modifications, the staples started falling out. So I decided to take them out fully, and I've just put a really simple stitch through. So it's just 3 holes. You bring the thread up in the middle, go out 1 hole, go all the way to there and bring it up again and tie it off. And this is a strong linen thread that should just hold it together. Oh, another thing I thought I'd say is that if this is still too intimidating, you've still got white blank areas to fill, you don't even have to draw paint directly on the page. You can collage things down. I did an online course where I was sketching and painting, and I did lots of shells and things, and so I've used 2 of those. I've just glued them both to this piece of paper. I thought it was quite fun because that shows one side of it and that shows another side of it. But that's another way you can choose your element first without that commitment of, oh, I've done something and I don't like it. Although if I do that, I just paint over it and put something else on it. Oh, here's another thing. It's quite fun to use sort of tracing paper, because again, you can see through it, but there's slight sort of opacity there, so you're not quite sure what you're seeing. I mean, and it's fun doing this. This becomes part of the creative process. This doesn't have to be an end. You don't have to create great work. You just want to have fun and express things you've got in your head. And you don't have to show anybody your sketchbooks. I mean, I love looking at artist sketchbooks. If there's some in an exhibition, it's often the first thing I go and look at. But it can be completely private and personal. You can use it as a journal, write down ideas, use it for anything. Look, I've even used a bit of envelope there. I've got a thing about corrugated iron, and I love that. And also this idea again of being able to see through, but not completely. So I hope that will give you a bit of inspiration, and that you can have a bit of fun, just kind of embellishing a blank sketchbook. I'd love to see and hear if anybody does that. So thank you for watching, and see you again soon in the studio or in the garden.